Greetings. Welcome to my weekend market recap, 6th of May 2023. I am Sagar Nandi, retired IT professional, swing trading stocks using the Q systems and techniques that I developed. You may contact me using my email ID info@superiorprofit.co. I regularly share live market and stock analysis on my website superiorprofit.co, Twitter handle Superior Profit, and YouTube channel Trading Profitably. All these are open to the public and you are most welcome to make use of them. Disclaimer: this demonstration is for educational purposes only. I am not an investment advisor. It is not a trade recommendation. Trading involves risk. You and only you are solely responsible for the outcome of your trades. Options trading can be risky. You may refer to the characteristics and risks of standardized options document from OCC to decide if options trading is suitable for you. I use the Q systems for my trading. All the Q components run on Metastock platform and the technical analysis component runs on TradeStation as well. That was the last slide. Let's continue with the live system. We'll first look at the global markets starting with Australian index all ordinaries. I was on mute, sorry about that. Let me start with all ordinaries again. All ordinaries made a wild swing from below the lower boundary to above the upper boundary. Then it displayed bearish indecision and bear release. After that, the traffic light momentum color turned bearish. That happened at the trend line resistance. That was the time you could look for shorting candidates, and you could again look for shorting candidates when we had the bearish flow candle at this point, which also signaled a possible flow trend following short setup. After that, price dropped to the lower boundary and white direction line, at which point it displayed the bullish indecision, and on Friday it has a bullish headwind as well. As of Friday's close, looking at the bullish headwind and support from the white direction line, I'm inclined to look for bullish trades in the Australian market. The weekly is indecisive, so all ordinaries itself is not giving any buy setup, but I will not mind looking for buy setups in individual constituent stocks of all ordinaries. Taking a step backward, what is the direction of all ordinaries? It is sideways. It is actually in the middle of the sideways range, but looking at the bullish indecision and bullish headwind and the support from white direction line, I am willing to look for buy setups in constituent stocks. Next, let's look at Japan Stopics Index. Topics Index is continuing to have bullish backdrop in the weekly chart. Daily is continuing to be in an uptrend with higher low and higher high. It's clearly in an uptrend, however, it is above the upper boundary. I will not like to buy topics now. you could look to buy constituent stocks on this day when we had a bullish flow and a possible trend following long setup. Again, Topix itself would not be a buy candidate on that day because it was already at the upper boundary, but you could look for constituent strong fundamental stocks to buy on that day. What is the direction? Topic's direction is bullish, and I will avoid buying in the Japanese market because it is overbought. Next, let's look at China's CSI 300 index. CSI 300 index is moving sideways. The lower edge is defined by watermark support, upper edge defined by trendline resistance. It is in the middle of the range, and we have indecisive shape candle on Friday, and also the weekly candle is indecisive. In this case, it is range bound, and I will stand aside. I will not like to buy or short. Next, India's Nifty 50 index. Nifty 50 has bullish backdrop in weekly. The daily is in an uptrend. However, this week's candle has a bearish indecision at the top, and we have a bearish indecision on Friday's candle as well. We also had a bearish indecision 4 days ago, that was Tuesday. On Thursday, price tried to take out the high of that indecision candle but reversed very next day. It also failed to stay above the watermark resistance, thereby creating a false upside breakout. That is bearish. However, looking at the nearby trendline support, I am not going to short Nifty itself, Nifty 50 itself. However, you may or I may look for individual fundamentally weak stocks giving possible short setup. We also have a bear release, stretch release, bearish stretch release in Nifty. Nifty itself is still in an uptrend, but it was overbought for a long time. That is one reason I may look for shorting candidates in individual stocks. Also, we may look at the market breadth for the Indian market. Usually, I don't look at the market breadth of any other country other than the USA, but this week, let's make an exception. Let's look at the India market total view, a single chart market breadth view. I mentioned on the Nifty 50 chart that the market was overbought and now we have a bear release. And in the India market breadth total view, we can see the overbought nature from many angles. One is the percentage of stocks above 50-day moving average that hit the upper extreme, that is overbought. The 3-month new high low hit the upper extreme, that is usually unsustainable, that is overbought. And we see a cluster of Bango signals thanks to Mr. Ian Woodward, may him rest in peace. The Bango signals, how I read them is buy everything, even those of not value. If we look back, the last time the Bango signals came was here, and that pretty much caught the very high of the market, from which market dropped significantly. The Bango itself is not a sell signal, it is a market breadth overbought signal that came here, that proved very useful, aka profitable, and now the Bango signals are flashing again. That's one reason I will avoid buying in the Indian market now. Instead, I will look to short weak fundamental stocks that are giving proper Q short setup. Okay, let's go back to the global market study, the last one that we study regularly, that is UK's FTSE index. FTSE index, the weekly candle is bearish in color, indecisive in shape. It is range bound. Right at the trendline resistance, it displayed a cluster of bearish indecisions, then a bear release, then traffic light turned bearish, and then flow also turned bearish. So you could look for shorting candidates in this area, came down enough to give profitable short swing trades. And on Friday, I see a bull release signal with yellow candle, bullish shape candle. It is inside the range and trend line resistances are nearby. So I am not going to look for buy setups right now. I will wait to see if the trend line resistances can be broken before looking for buy setups. And there is no short setup, so I will not look to short as well. That was a look at the global markets, mixed picture, but none of the markets are giving buy setup. Now, what is the state of the USA market? If you remember my last week's recap, I had a bullish view on the market. And during the week, I think I shared only long ideas, even though many people were worried about the market. And you will see that the Q protection signal for the market ETFs was actually not hit. Now, in the last market recap, I mentioned that I was bullish. However, I also mentioned that I was not going to buy the market ETFs probably because they were extended. For example, SPY was here, that was too close to the upper boundary. So I mentioned I was bullish about the market including SPY, but I would not buy SPY itself. Now, one thing to note is how we use the Q protection signal. Let's draw the chart with Q protection signal. I also draw a vertical line identifying last Friday's candle. This was last Friday's candle, and the recent low would be this candle, and the protection signal below that recent low, let me redraw it accurately, that was actually not hit on a closing basis. On Thursday, it came very close to the protection signal, but it was not breached. Now again, I would not buy SPY itself because it was extended, but it was good to see that the Q protection signal was not hit on a closing basis. That was for SPY. Let's look at QQQ. The protection signal below recent low was here, and of course price did not go anywhere. That QQQ is looking the most bullish. What I am showing is that the Q protection signal works very well even in such an apparently scary market. Of course, I would not have bought SPY or QQQ, any of them, because the recent low was far away, as I mentioned in the last market recap. But let's look at the protection signal anyway to see how beautifully it worked once again. DIA, the Q protection signal was at this point, and if you draw a horizontal line, I checked on a closing basis, even for DIA, that was not breached. And what about IWM? The Q protection signal below recent low was at this point, and that was not touched as well. So what I showed is that my market view last week was bullish, and though I would not buy any of the market ETFs because they were not giving buy setups, I only shared bullish ideas during the week, and the market ETFs themselves also did not hit the Q protection stop on a closing basis. And what is my market view this week? That is actually bullish, and let's see why using the weekly daily charts. And let me switch to TradeStation's Q Elite for that, starting with SPY. Last week my view was bullish because SPY closed above the trendline resistance in weekly, and it had closed above the trendline resistance in daily also. And this week market dropped initially but recovered right from the yellow direction line, had a strongly bullish move on Friday with a bullish flow, and the weekly interestingly regained the trendline resistance. That is why I am continuing to have my bullish view, continuing to carry forward my bullish view from the previous week. On Friday, SPY itself is not giving any buy setup, so I will not like to buy SPY, the same view that I shared in the previous week's recap also, but my market view looking at SPY is remaining bullish. And for this week's analysis, I am also drawing the historical trendline resistances and supports that were broken earlier, these dotted trend lines, and you can see it closed below the support trend line but regained the support trend line here. It came back inside the triangle pattern. That is of course broken now. So if it can break above the trend line resistance again, the broken trend line resistance, then I will be even more bullish. But even now, looking at the weekly daily, I am more bullish than bearish on the market. What about QQQ? QQQ actually closed higher for the week. You can see that from the green color of the weekly activity bar. Friday we had a bullish flow. The trend line support held very beautifully. This is also a bullish picture. Again, I will not buy QQQ itself, but my market view based on QQQ and SPY both are bullish. What about DIA? If you see the daily, it was inside a triangle. It broke the triangle to the upside, came down, broke the triangle to the downside, came back up inside the triangle that was there that time. Based on the fact that in spite of all the negative news regarding regional banks, it could come back inside the triangle pattern. The weekly candle shape is indecisive, color is indecisive. Friday had a strongly bullish move. In fact, Friday had a large gap up open and then closed much higher than the open, and that we had a big move up 3 on Friday. Though DIA itself does not have any buy setup, I am keeping my bullish view from the previous market. And notice the big move up 3 in DIA. The previous big move up 3 happened 1 week ago. After that, market seems to have shaken some people out, and then on Friday it had a very big bullish move again. That is also contributing to me having the bullish view. And let's go back to the other market ETFs to see, did we have any big move up 3 in any of the other market ETFs. DIA had it, SPY had it 1 week ago, QQQ did not have any big move up 3 in previous or current week, and IWM also has a big move up 3 on Friday. Now if we look at IWM, it is range bound. It is in fact the weakest of the market ETFs except on Friday. Friday, if we see the percentage changes, IWM went up by the biggest percentage. If it can break out of at least the first trend line resistance, and probably after that the second trend line resistance, there will be enough reason to start buying small cap stocks. It was the best performer on Friday. However, I will wait to see if it can break out of at least the first trend line resistance, that is above current price. Based on the big move up 3 in SPY and IWM, and that in spite of all the negative news, market did not drop much. I am maintaining my bullish view based on this external view analysis, that is ETF analysis. Now let's look at the market breadth total view now, internal health check. USA market breadth total view, a single chart view with a lot of internal analysis. Last week we had an accumulation count of 3 and an Eureka signal that contributed to me having the bullish view in the last market recap. Then we had a Phoenix signal, bearish signal with small distribution count 2. However, the candle shape was mixed, so that did not make me much bearish. And on Friday, we have a large accumulation count 4, even bigger than the previous one that was bullish, double the one that was the bearish accumulation, bearish distribution count, and we had an Eureka again on Friday. And the candle chart, if you look at, this is a custom index built from the 2 composites and 4 major indexes that also gapped up at the open on Friday and closed much higher with a large accumulation count of 4 and an Eureka signal. That internal view is also making me bullish on the market. Is it overbought in terms of percentage of stocks above 50 MA? No. It is just near the midpoint, far below the overbought level. And what about the 3-month new high low? That is also above the midpoint, that is bullish, but far below the upper extremes, so it is not overbought. So the internal view is also telling me to be bullish on the market. If you drill down into the composites and the major indexes, I'll not do that to save time. I want to look at several stocks in today's session. You will see that from those major indexes market breadth and composite indexes market breadth also, you have reasons to remain bullish, continue to remain bullish on the market. Interesting, isn't it? Though there was a big scare regarding regional banks, my market view is remaining bullish. And shortly I will look at the ideas, all were bullish ideas, how they played out. Did they confirm? And if they confirmed the setup, how did they play out? But before looking at those, let's look at the market from few other angles. One is the Very useful. Another breadth inside sector industry stock advanced decline breadth from 1 month to 1 day. The 1 month view is now neutral. 10-day is bearish. Even the week is bearish. But 2 day and 1 day are very bullish. From bearish, it seems to be changing to a bullish stance, and it was oversold somewhere during the week. I will show that shortly. When the market was oversold and then it turned very bullish over Thursday, Friday, that was the time to buy. That's why I shared only buying ideas during the week. And look at the bucket analysis. The percentage of stocks below lower Bollinger Band, S&P 1500 stocks, is at only 5.7%. But how was it during the week? I tweeted about that. I tweeted about the bucket analysis being oversold twice during the week. One was here on May 2 in the morning session. All these are real-time tweets. And I showed that the percentage of stocks below lower Bollinger Band was approaching 30% using real-time analysis. And yes, the market was very bearish across sectors, stocks, industries. All the sectors were down. All the sectors were down by significant percentages, some as high as 5%, 4%, 2%, about 3, 2%. Very bearish picture. However, market was also oversold. That was on 2nd May. What do I do? What is the Q guidelines when market is so oversold that about 30% of stocks are below lower Bollinger Band? That was the time to start looking for buy candidates, and I did actually buy also. I'll share one such stock, how I bought it right at that time. So that was one day during the week I shared my oversold nature view of the market, and the other time was May 4th. So first was on Tuesday and then on Thursday. May 4th, again in the morning session using real-time analytics, the percentage of stocks below lower Bollinger Band hit 30% plus. That was oversold. And yes, sector industry stocks were all down. All sectors were down by significant percentages, but the market was oversold. So both based on Tuesday's analysis of buckets and Thursday's analysis of buckets, I started to look for buy candidates, and I did actually buy on both occasions, and overall they did quite well. I look at them, but see how the bucket analysis was useful. If I go back to the bucket analysis now, the percentage of stocks below lower Bollinger Band is at only 5%. It hit 30% on both Tuesday and Thursday. That was the time I mentioned it was too late to short, and I actually bought, and that was very useful, aka profitable, also known as profitable in my jargon, because many stocks recovered. What kind of stocks could you buy? You could look to buy stocks that were at price extreme low, for example. Friday was very bullish. It was oversold and now bullish. That is contributing to my continuing with bullish stance this week as well. What about technical breadth? Let's look at Q Finder. The weekly picture is still bearish in terms of all signals, strength signals, continuation, even reversals. Weekly picture is remaining bearish. That is in sync with sector industry stock advanced decline breadth. If we look at the daily picture though, it is very bullish as of Friday. 90% plus of all signals, 90% plus of strength signals, 90% plus of trend continuation, and almost 90% of reversal signals are bullish. That is a very bullish move from an oversold market. That's contributing to my bullish stance on the market. And if we see the number of headwinds, or the percentage of headwinds rather, that is much above 1% in the daily interval on Friday. And in this version, I'm able to see the differences between Thursday's picture and Friday's picture. This is Friday's picture. The finder scans were run during the weekend. If we look at the Thursday's picture, see on Thursday we had overall bearish picture. The reversals started to become more bullish. This is as of Thursday's picture. Reversal started to become more bullish, however overall it was still bearish, and from there we have a very bullish picture on Friday in terms of technical breadth that's contributing to me remaining bullish. Now let's look at the several stocks I shared in last market recap and during the week to see how they played out. Did they confirm, and if they confirmed the setup, how did they do? In the last market recap, I shared 3 breakout candidates. One was CMI. CMI, it had broken out 1 week ago here on this candle. That was a breakout candidate I analyzed in the last market recap. And if we look at the stop signal, protection signal, the breakout happened on this day. Stop below recent low would be here, and on a closing basis that stop was not hit. If that stop was hit on a closing basis, I would have exited. I am actually continuing to hold a bullish position in CMI. Though market was very jittery, people were very anxious about the regional banks, once again a breakout candidate did not hit the stop on a closing basis. So I am continuing to hold. I am actually holding a long position in CMI that I took during the breakout that I shared earlier. The second stock buy candidate that I shared in the previous market recap was America Online. This was the breakout day. And see, in spite of the market scare, regional bank scare, it is holding very well. So if you bought, I did, during the breakout analysis of previous market recap, you may continue to hold. Stop is of course below the low of the breakout. It didn't go down actually. If you look at the weekly chart, it actually closed higher from 1 week ago. You know that from the activity bar being green. So in spite of the market scares, the breakout analysis, breakout candidate of previous week worked very well. So one stock CMI did not hit the stop on a closing basis. America Online didn't even approach the stop, in fact went up for the week. And the third breakout candidate that I shared in the previous market recap on this day, RCL, that went up hugely. I booked at least a partial profit on Thursday when it hit the trend line resistance. That is the guidelines. You could book full profit or at least a partial profit we would book, looking at price hitting the trend line resistance, which was there in weekly also, and it started to come down after the open. So that would be the time to book at least partial profit. So 3 buy candidates I shared in the previous market recap. AAL is in a profit, RCL at least partial profit was booked, and CMI the full position is being held. Now during the week I shared several possible buying ideas. One was LY. There are few actually, but let me look at them in sequence. I'll come back to lift LYFT, but before that let's have a look at KRE. There were a lot of scares about regional banks, and let's look at the regional banks ETF KRE. Earlier I noticed this trend line support, this support in dotted trend line, and mentioned that if that is broken, that would be a reason for concern, and it indeed broke, dropped sharply for 3 days. I also mentioned at that time that if that trend line support would break, I would not like to short because it would be oversold. It would be too close to the lower boundary, and also the stretch indicator showed that it was oversold. So I would not have shorted anyway. Now, is there any buying setup? No. On Thursday, it had an indecisive shape candle with bullish indecision at the bottom. Friday again bullish indecision at the bottom, and we also see a big move up 3, bullish pressure, bull release. So the sharp drop that was there earlier in the week, that stopped on Thursday, and on Friday we have a big move up 3, but it does not have a buy setup yet, not KRE, but the last 2 days, rather last 3 days move, if you see, if I remove the lines, it's looking like an island reversal, bullish island reversal. It does not have a buy setup, but you could look to buy regional bank stocks if they gave proper buy setup. I shared one that could be a buying candidate, but it did not confirm the setup. I mentioned that in the tweet, but this is an analysis of KRE. Now, when I discussed KRE earlier, I also looked at Schwab. I tweeted about Schwab, and let's now review how the analysis played out. All the analysis I did, as always, before knowing the result. On 1st May, in the morning session, using real-time analysis, I showed that as of that time, morning session, about 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Schwab SCHW was giving a flow trend following long setup with trend line support. So we were to buy if the flow setup confirmed by the close of the day. That was 1st May. Let's see if it confirmed the setup by the close. Let's look at Schwab now. 1st May was this day. So it turned red by the close of the day. Therefore, the flow setup did not confirm and we would not buy. That is the way we can look for a setup, but don't buy before the close of the day, that is until the setup is confirmed by the close, or if we bought it using intraday charts, we are supposed to exit it as a day trade. In any case, the setup did not confirm, using Q guidelines would not buy, and that was useful because price dropped. Now it also has bullish indecision for 2 days in a row. Remember, a cluster of indecisions we take more seriously. However, I will not buy unless this trend line resistance is broken. So this is related to regional banks. They are also a banking stocks, also a brokerage stock. But this is not the stock I would like to buy now. We could keep an eye on it. Now notice the difference between KRE and Schwab. Schwab is actually holding the previous low. It did not breach the previous low, but KRE breached the previous low. So Schwab is continuing to be stronger than KRE. I will later try to find some regional banks, at least one, that is giving a buy setup as of now. But before that, let me review few other ideas that I shared on Twitter, how they played out. Let's close Schwab tweet. I posted an analysis on Lyft, the ride sharing app company, peer of Uber. I shared it on my forum and I tweeted about it on 28th April. And I asked, will it break out of the trendline resistance? It was inside a triangle, inside a narrow range, at price extreme low, inside a squeeze, weekly turned bullish. However, following Q guidelines, we would not buy unless it gave a proper breakout. That is what I shared in the tweet and on my forum. Now let's see how it played out. Lyft, Lyft. That was what I shared on April 28th. Let's look at the chart after that. Lyft. This was the trendline resistance. If you, okay, that was 28th May. So this was the day I tweeted about the possible breakout. It did go above the trendline resistance but closed below it with a bearish indecision. So we would not buy, breakout was not confirmed, and then we see bearish indecisions came for 2 more days in a row. The very next day also had an upper tail. So none of the days gave a proper Q buy setup. So we would not buy. Next day had a bear release. Again, no buy setup. We wouldn't buy, and that would be very useful because very next day after earnings it dropped by a huge almost 20%. During the day it went below 20% also, but it closed just 19.55, if you can call that, just below previous day. So again, we could be ready for a bullish breakout, but that did not happen, and looking at the bearish indecisions and then bear release, we would not buy, and that would protect our capital. Now it is stopping at the watermark support. If it can go up, probably even better. If it breaches the watermark support and goes up from there, we may have a low risk buy setup, but we'll also look at its fundamentals and industry scorecard to see if it gives us a 360 degrees buy idea. In this case, I shared a possible breakout candidate, and once again that did not materialize and we would not buy. Let's look at the next idea that I shared, that was on JD. JD.com, Chinese e-retailer. I shared about JD.com on 3rd May, just before the market close, and in that case also I mentioned to look for a bullish breakout. Again, real-time chart. It was inside a triangle in daily, had a very robust trend line support in weekly. Weekly had a bullish indecision 1 week ago, and the neutral color was continuing. Daily also had a bullish headwind. So all I was looking for was a bullish breakout from the trend line resistance. That is what I shared as always before knowing the results on 3rd May. And I looked at its fundamentals also. It had a short squeeze potential. Same day, 3rd May, I tweeted short squeeze potential, very large earnings growth, and 2 successive quarters, in fact 3 successive quarters, increasing earnings growth, and the stock was up at that time. Let's see what happened after 3rd May. JD.com. I looked for a breakout when the bullish headwind came at daily trendline support. The breakout happened very next day at the open. That day also had a bullish flow. So you could buy right at the open next day using precision entry chart. And if you did that, you are holding the stock with a small profit. Stop would be just below the trendline support. So of the few stocks I shared showing possible buy setups, Lyft did not confirm the setup, we wouldn't buy. Schwab did not confirm the setup, we wouldn't buy. JD.com confirmed the setup and I did buy, and I am holding the stock. The earnings is coming. I will decide what to do before the earnings. I have a stock position. If I have a significant profit, I may close the stock position and using part of the profit buy an options position, maybe long call vertical, which is not affected by volatility changes so much. That way I could ensure a guaranteed profitable trade before the earnings. But let me see how much profit I have. If I don't have a large enough profit, I may decide to simply close the position with a small profit before earnings comes out. So this one idea I shared confirmed the setup and I bought the stock. I'm holding it. Now on Friday, I tweeted about 3 more stocks. One was Lemonade, and these are well-known stocks, or rather these were well-known stocks. Growth stock traders used to buy these stocks. At least 2 of them are very well known. One is Lemonade. And again, let's look at the real-time analysis that I did. This is what I shared on Friday, this Friday in the morning session. And at that time I saw it was breaking out of the daily trend line resistance as well as weekly trend line resistances. That was bullish. Now of course I also mentioned that it is, or it was a bit extended in daily because the recent low was here. That's too far away from the current breakout point, too far for my liking. However, I noted that in the weekly it was just starting to go up and it had a big move up 3 on Thursday. That was the day it gapped up hugely after earnings and continued to go up, closing much higher. That was a big move up day at price extreme low. So that made me think that I could buy at least a small position. I call them exploratory position if the breakout confirmed. Let's look at how Lemonade LMND closed on Friday. In fact, it closed below the trend line resistance. So the breakout in daily was not confirmed. We also have a bearish indecision at the top. So we wouldn't buy Lemonade at the close. The breakout did not confirm. However, it had a very bullish move from a very low price level. What I will very much like it to do is to go down little bit, create a higher low and then go up, giving me a trend following buy setup. I see the weekly backdrop has already turned bullish. So if I have a bullish flow candle somewhere here, that will be a very low risk entry point. And even if the trend line resistance is nearby, using real-time charts, I may not mind taking a long position. Now to keep track of the stock, I like the weekly pattern, and it is at a very low price level, price extreme low, and in weekly you can see it regained the watermark support with a very bullish flow, very high volume. That is a false downside breakout. So I have a bullish view on the market, and I am holding an exploratory very small position, bullish position in the stock. Yes, the stop is very far away, that's why I took only a small position to keep an eye on the stock. If the breakout confirmed on Friday, which it did not, then I would have taken a slightly bigger position. So that was Lemonade. You may keep an eye on it to see if it gives a low risk buy point again, either using real-time charts or using the daily chart. The other stock I tweeted about, very well-known stock again, used to be very well-known, was DDOG, Datadog. These were very well-known earlier growth stocks, and again this was what I tweeted on Friday in the morning session using real-time charts, and there were many similarities between Datadog and Lemonade. DDOG also was breaking out of both daily and weekly trendline resistances, had fantastic support in weekly, had series or cluster of bullish indecisions earlier and now breaking out, was at price extreme low, had a big move up 3. So all these were very similar to Lemonade, and I wanted it to break out of the daily and weekly and I could buy a position. Yes, the stop would be bit far away to my liking, but in weekly it seems the move is just starting. So I would have bought a position. I did buy actually, but let's see how Datadog closed. Datadog also, and see how the trendline resistances work beautifully, supports also work beautifully. That's why the breakouts are also significant. But in this case also, in Datadog also, like Lemonade, it closed right below the trendline resistance. So it did not confirm the breakout setup. You would not buy it at the close. Now again, like Lemonade, I am bullish in the stock based on the big move up 3 from price extreme low, and after earnings it hugely gapped up. So I am keeping track of the stock, and to remind me that I keep an eye, I have an exploratory long position on Datadog. Again, I would like it to pull back little bit, make a higher low and go up, giving a flow trend following long setup. I see weekly has already turned bullish for 3 weeks now. So a higher low with a flow bullish candle will give me a trend following long setup, and at that point I may add to my DDOG position. See, all these are bullish trades, and the ones that confirmed the setups are either still being held, stop is not hit, or they are already in a profit, like America Online, like RCL, like JD.com. And another stock I tweeted about on Friday was a biotech, NTLA. Again, I tweeted about NTLA, I think Intella, Intella Therapeutics, biotech stock. I tweeted about it in the morning session on Friday. That was also breaking out of trend line resistance in daily. And I also showed in this chart, Q chart on trade station, how you could use the historical trend lines to see when exactly when the trend is changing. Earlier there were many trend line resistances. Gradually they got broken one by one, and the last two got broken on Friday. Now we have only trend line support, some coming from very far away. So I tweeted about Entella. Again, recent low is a bit below my liking, below the current price, too far below. But if we look at weekly, daily, I tweeted about that also. If you look at weekly, daily, again, this is what I tweeted in the morning session on Friday. Weekly has a fantastic support from a trend line coming from very far away. It was inside a very narrow range, and on Friday, or rather this week, it broke out sharply out of the range. The move is just beginning. Daily, it broke out of the trend line resistances with a big move up 3 at price extreme low. This is what I shared in the morning session. Let's see if this one confirmed the setup or not. Intella Therapeutics biotech stock. Yes, it did break out of the trend line resistance. The trend line resistance is broken now. However, it has a bearish indecision at the top. So following give guidelines, again, we would not buy on Friday because the breakout setup has certain conditions, checklist conditions to be met. One of them is that the candle shape cannot be indecisive like this. So you don't buy at the close, but looking at the weekly, I am bullish on the stock. Yes, the stop is a bit far away to see if it can go up. I like it once again, just like Datadog, just like Lemonade. I like it to come down little bit, create a higher low. Weekly is already having bullish flow for 2 weeks. So if we have a bullish flow candle at a higher low, that will give a flow trend following long setup. I like to buy at that point. I see big move up 3, price extreme low. I like the weekly. So here again for the third time, I'm holding an exploratory long position in Intella NTLA. If it gives a proper flow setup, I'll add to my position. That was a look at all the ideas that I shared during the week. All were buying ideas starting from last Friday onwards. The ones that confirmed trade setups worked well overall. That gave me a profit overall. I didn't share any short idea. I did not take any short trade. Now I mentioned in my tweet that the market was oversold based on bucket analysis on Tuesday itself. And that was the time, as I always say, when the market is oversold in bucket analysis, I look to buy stocks. And I found a stock at that time. Yes, I did not tweet it, but I'm sharing it. I don't have to tweet every trade that I take. But see this stock. It's PAGS. The market was oversold on Tuesday when I tweeted about it using bucket analysis snapshot. And that time the stock was going up. It gave a flow trend following buy setup. If you applied the checklists on weekly daily, it gave an unambiguous buy setup on this day, and I took a long position. It is not looking like market went through any turmoil. After the trend following long setup continued to go up, Now remember, this was a stock that was in a downtrend earlier. Just here the trend line resistances were all broken, and then we had a flow candle. That situation allows us to buy even at the upper boundary because it was just changing for the first time from downtrend to uptrend. So I bought it at that time and I'm holding this stock PAGS with about 10% profit. Now let's look at the fundamentals also. I wouldn't buy in such a scary market to some people without looking at its fundamentals. I think I looked at it. Let's look at it. PAGS. And yes, we are at 1 hour point. After looking at PAGS that I bought earlier, I will share one last stock that is giving a buy setup right now, and it is a regional banks. Interesting, isn't it? Regional banks sold off. People may be scary, but I am finding a buy setup. I look at that, but look at the fundamentals of PAGS. Undervalued stock with fund accumulation, and even on Friday 86% of PR stocks went up, but I bought it before Friday itself using the flow trend following long setup. And yes, fundamentally Q scorecard allows us to buy. I checked that when buying the stock. Now let's look at one last stock that is my buy candidate as of Friday's close, banking stock, regional banks. Let it retrieve the data for scorecard. Meanwhile, I look at the stock. Let's look at it using Q Global on MetaStock. Weekly, daily. Weekly is bullish. In fact, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. For 6 weeks in a row, the backdrop color is remaining bullish. This week's candle shape color, both are bullish. Previous week's candle shape color, both are also bullish. Yes, this is a regional bank, not necessarily a USA regional bank, but this is very strong. It is listed in the USA market, so we could trade it. None of the regional banks turmoil, USA regional banks turmoil, hit this stock. This is ITUB, Itao Unibanco or something, ADR. ITUB is the ticker symbol, and on Friday it has a beautiful breakout with a trend following long setup as well. And see, just prior to the breakout and bullish flow, it had a cluster of bullish indecision, which happened at the yellow and white direction lines. In fact, if you look at it carefully, I discussed about fan out in the previous market recap in some detail. Over 2 days or last 3 days, 2-3 days, it has a fan out count of 5. It tried to go below both white and yellow direction lines on Thursday, but by Friday's close, in fact, it was below all the 5 direction lines at some point on Thursday, and by Friday's close, it is above all 5 of them. That is a strong fan out, which was also accompanied by a breakout and flow trade setup. And if you wanted to check out the commentary, a very useful feature of Q Global. Now we see one setup I missed when reading the chart. Yes, it has a possible breakout setup, it has a possible flow trend following long setup, and because it regained the yellow direction line while being in an uptrend, it also gave a possible pullback long setup. So it gave 3 buy setups on Friday. Unfortunately, I didn't notice it before the market close, so I would like to have a long position in it on Monday. I'll of course use the real-time moves to decide exactly when to enter, but the chart is looking very bullish, giving 3 buy setups on Friday. How is its fundamentals? Fundamentals is in the middle, valuation is in middle, earnings growth in the middle. However, funds are accumulating, has a nice dividend, decent dividend of 5.5%. It's not regional banks, it's the diversified banks, banking stock, ITUB, and see how strong the industry was on Friday. So on Friday, everything was aligned, technical, fundamentals, and if we check the industry scorecard with a single click, completing the 360 degrees analysis, diversified banks score rapidly went up, going to almost the very top. Diversified banks industry went up by massive 5.9% on Friday. And if we look at the scorecard over longer term, see it was one of the very weakest of industries. From there, it became one of the strongest, 150 score out of 153 industries. But we just need to look at the checkered background, that is in the top 20%. Also, it is accelerating among top 20%. Very strong industry, and it's a very nice turnaround industry. The industry is turned around, however, the stock is a breakout candidate, pullback candidate, as well as a trend following long setup candidate. 360 degrees buy setup, and allow me one more minute probably to look at it using the 3 chart template where the additional momentum signals are there. We have a bongo green, PSAR reversal, pocket pivot, Mobo breakout, Kahuna. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 green dots. 5 green dots with 3 Q long trade setups. That is as good a buy candidate as we may get. Now, how could you get it? You could get it from Q Finder. That is how I located it after the market closed. Let's go back to Finder. Finder is looking very bullish. I'm bullish on the market as of Friday's close. So what I would do, I would go to the bullish signals, look at actual setups. Some of them went up by very large percentages already, 13%, 37%, 20%, 15%. I would not like to buy them now. Some of them are well known earlier, at least earlier well known growth stocks like LPSN, but they are already high a lot. But I noticed ITUB from here. Possible 3 trade setups, that is pullback, flow, breakout, had a gap up open with bullish pressure, price extreme in the middle. And if I used a single click to look at the alternative signals, I would know that it has 5 bullish green dots, that is PSAR reversal, pocket pivot, Kahuna, Mobo breakout, Bongo. That is how I identified ITUB. I did not find it before the market closed, then I would have bought it on Friday itself. I'll keep an eye on this stock and I may buy it next week. Interesting, isn't it? Though many people were worried, I only shared bullish ideas since last Friday, and all of them worked out. Those that confirmed the setup, none of them got stopped out, and the ones that confirmed other than one that did not stop out. All of them are in a profit, some in large profit like RCL. That is how, whatever be the market news, if you follow a disciplined approach using a robust system like Q systems, in my view, all we need to do is to remain disciplined, follow the system and techniques. Maybe we may make it our own and then follow it. And then, as I always say, it is difficult not to make some money from the market. Thanks a lot for joining. I look forward to seeing you in my next session. That will be next weekend. I will share the date and time on Twitter as usual. Have a great weekend and trade profitably. Thank you.